Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's Connecticut Green Bank Fall Update webinar. My name is Rudy Stirk, the Associate Director of Marketing Communications, and today I will be joined by a number of colleagues who are going to present on the various topics that you see listed on the agenda slide here. A couple of quick housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded, and that recording will be shared in a follow-up email to everyone who registered, so they can watch the webinar again or share it with any of your colleagues. You'll also get the link to these slides so you can review them as well. At the end of the presentation, we will have some time for Q&A. So please, as you go through, put your questions in the chat box and we will do our best to answer those at the end. And if there are things that we can't answer or don't answer, we will try to follow up with you directly when the webinar is over later this week. So without any further delay, I will turn this presentation over to Brian Garcia, Connecticut Green Bank President and CEO.
All right, thank you, Rudy. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you here on this brisk fall New England weather we're starting to have. I wanted to just real quickly do an overview of the Connecticut Green Bank, introduce a few changes in board members and personnel, and then transition it off to the team. Many of you know that the Connecticut Green Bank is the nation's first state-level green bank. We were created through a bipartisan act of legislation, Section 99 of Public Act 1180 back in July of 2011. We essentially provide capital to families and businesses to help them finance clean energy improvements so that they can realize all the benefits of those improvements and society can realize those benefits as well. Our mission is to confront climate change, and we do that by increasing and accelerating investment into Connecticut's green economy to create more resilient, healthier, and equitable communities. Over our last 12 plus years, we have invested $360 million of public resources to mobilize over $2 billion of private investment. That investment has created over 27,000 jobs in our communities, helped raise tax revenues of nearly $130 million from sales tax, individual corporate property tax. That's helped reduce the energy burden on nearly 70,000 families and businesses through the deployment of over 570 megawatts of clean energy, as well as nearly 70 million MMBTUs of energy efficiency savings over the life of those projects. Of course, as we deploy more and more clean energy, we get all the environmental benefits that we're after, including avoiding over 11 million metric tons of CO2 emissions over the life of those projects, and the improvement of public health with cleaner air as a result of a reduction in SOx, NOx, particulate matter, and other criteria pollutants. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Rudy. Just a few farewells and welcome aboards. Many of you know we have 12 members of our board of directors. Several of them are ex officio members. So we have Deputy Commissioner Rob Hodeling of the Department of Economic and Community Development, stepping in for Banu Chandi, who was a board member with the Connecticut Green Bank for about 2 years. So Rob is stepping in to represent DECD. We've got Deputy Commissioner of Energy Hank Webster with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, stepping in for the Bureau Chief, Vicki Hackett at DEEP. We still work quite actively with both Banu and Vicki, and we're excited that Rob and Hank have joined the ranks of our board of directors. Welcome aboard. And we have lost Mayor Hoydick, the mayor of Stratford, who resigned from our board in the middle of spring. She's got a lot of exciting things that she's working on here in the state of Connecticut. So stay tuned for all of that. Let's go to the next slide. Welcome to a bunch of new green bankers. We have been going through quite an extensive building out of the team to help us realize our Dream Bigger strategy. We feel that with the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, that presents Connecticut unique opportunities to go bigger and help us essentially enable more investment in and deployment of clean energy, specifically in vulnerable communities. So we are building the team. We've got Priyank Bhakta, who is a senior manager of underwriting with our investments team. Dawn Boutine, welcome back. Dawn's been a contractor with us. She's a senior associate of asset management, helping us with our renewable energy credits. Abby Gustafson, welcome aboard, Abby, our associate with marketing and outreach. Matthew King, who's an associate of our incentive programs, helping with energy storage solutions. Caleb Smith, congratulations on your recent graduation. Our manager of data and impact are adding to our data team. We have a super team that does a lot with data. And then lastly, certainly not least, is Lee Welton, our new Director of Environmental Infrastructure. So you've heard me talk in the past about our new capabilities. We have brought on somebody who is extraordinary and is going to help us realize our vision for how we can mobilize more private investment in the modernization of Connecticut's environmental infrastructure. So welcome aboard, everybody. Next slide. Great. Just wanted to give everyone a sense of some of the things that we go through that ground us, that provide a foundation to what we do. Every summer, the June-July timeframe, we have to present to our board a comprehensive plan and budget. So you could access that plan if you just, when we send out these slides, hover over that part of the slide, you'll be able to get a link to the plan. You can get it from our website. That lays out all of our targets, our programs, our objectives, what we're after, including our budget for the fiscal year. So check that out. Every June, July, we go through that period. We also revisit in January. So we have a mid-course, a mid-year relook at our comprehensive plan and budget. You've heard me talk a little bit about here and there our various primers in environmental infrastructure. So back in 2021, after a decade of demonstrating how we could mobilize private investment in clean energy, Governor Lamont led a bipartisan effort to expand our scope to include environmental infrastructure. This is what Lee Welton is going to be leading now here at the Green Bank. We've developed a number of different primers: agriculture, land conservation, parks and recreation, and water, that you can access on our website. For those of you who are interested in the policies, the market opportunities, and how we're thinking about the Green Bank model applying to environmental infrastructure, check out those documents. It'll probably get you 80 to 90% up the learning curve in terms of what's happening in those various sectors. And then lastly, for those of you who are interested in carbon markets and ecosystem services, we did an environmental markets primer. That's the last document there on the right that walks you through the compliance and voluntary markets for those various environmental attributes. So we are excited to begin exploring how the Green Bank model can apply to environmental infrastructure, and you can get a lot of background through our comprehensive plan. So take a look at those documents. All right, with that, I'm going to transition this to Mackie Dykes, who's going to be leading on building solutions. Mackie.
Great, thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mackie Dykes. I'm the Vice President of Financing Programs here at the Connecticut Green Bank. I'm going to focus today on our building solutions and the relatively new framework for affordable multifamily solar and storage, and the solutions that we're bringing to the table to help grow deployment in that area. Next slide. And let's go one more slide. Great. So at this point now, a few years ago, there was a public act passed that made a tweak to the definition of residential customer for purposes of accessing the solar programs that the utilities run. And you see the language here, but essentially it made multifamily properties that are deemed affordable eligible for the residential program as opposed to the non-residential program. Next slide. So why is that important? What's the impact of that? So now affordable multifamily properties can access the residential tariff as opposed to, as I mentioned a second ago, the non-residential tariff. That brings a lot of benefits to it. The biggest being is that in pretty much every case, that residential tariff is higher than what these properties have been able to access before in the commercial program. Once you put in all the eligible adders, it's almost 32.5 cents that these projects can receive in the form of the buy-all tariff. Another very attractive feature is that there is no cap on the number of residential projects. You might, for those that are familiar with the non-residential program, there is a limited number of projects that can receive those tariff awards every year. So it's a competitive process that the affordable multifamily properties were often left out of. Now, with the ability to participate in the residential program, there is no cap. So you don't have to wait till auctions and win that award to move forward. You apply when your project's ready, and as long as you qualify, then you can move. Your project happens. And the other big benefit of this legislation is that it set up what is essentially on-site community solar, in the sense that one project can be built to benefit all the on-site meters. So rather than in the past, you had primarily projects that were built to just benefit the common space, you can now aggregate all the load, all the tenant meters, if it's tenant metered, the common space meters, aggregate that load, build one project that's sized to that, and then benefits are parceled out between the project owner and the tenants. The law actually requires, or the regulation actually requires 20% of the residential tariff to be shared with the tenants. So they receive, at this point, it's only tenant metered properties that are eligible. So the tenants receive an on-bill credit for their 20%. And you see the table here to the right, excuse me. So I mentioned it's only affordable multifamily that qualifies for this. There's a various tiers and qualification schemes that were created, but what it boils down to is there's two lists that have been put out by PURA that essentially deem the properties that are affordable and qualify for this. So you see here the breakdown in terms of the number of properties by broken out by units that qualify. So a very good universe of properties in the state that can take advantage of this new program. Next slide, please. So that's the opportunity. We've got this universe of properties that can access this program. So now we need to figure out what's feasible, which properties are feasible for solar, and help them get to a project. So the Green Bank is looking at expanding our solar map program to help serve these properties. Through this program, we provide technical assistance to move a project from just a glint in someone's eye to an actual working and electricity producing project. So we do initial feasibility test, we help with contractor selection, and then help navigate the increasingly complicated world of state and federal incentives. And it's I'd say increasingly complicated, but it is a good thing. There, between the statutory change and sort of RES structure I just outlined, plus the Inflation Reduction Act and all the adders that it introduced, the economics of a project are vastly different now than they were prior to those two laws happening. So there is a lot of money on the table to make these projects work for the benefit of tenants and property owners. So we can help navigate all those various dollars to make sure we're getting everything that's available. Next slide. So this is generally how the program works, but in a nutshell, it's really helping with everything, like I said, from feasibility to financing a project and getting it built. And on that financing point, let's go to the next slide. I'll talk through the structure that we envision for these projects is, different than our traditional power purchase agreement that we've done. We're looking at solar leases for these projects. The way this works is, need to work on our graphic here a little bit. This is a little too simple, but essentially the Green Bank is the owner of the system. We bear 100% of the cost of the system, and then really share the tariff, that residential tariff, that 32.5-cent tariff that I mentioned. The Green Bank, the property owner, and the tenants all split up that tariff. So the tenants get 20%. We take a portion based upon the cost of the system and which federal tax credits we're able to get, and then the property owner gets the rest. So it's a very attractive structure in the sense that for really no costs and not really taking on any risk, a property owner can get solar on the property, unlock the revenue from that, and also provide a benefit to their tenants in the form of those on-bill electric credits. So it really is a great opportunity and a great structure to deploy solar, especially on properties that might not have the ability to take on debt. That said, if you are interested in owning the system yourself and taking on debt, we also have a solar loan that we've tailored specifically to this structure. So have that available as well. So next slide, and I think that is the end for me. Yep. So I will turn it either back over to Rudy or over to Ed to walk through the home solutions.
Hey, Ed, are you ready?
I am ready. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right. Thanks, Rudy. Thanks, Mackie. Next slide, please. So energy storage solutions, it spans both the home programs and the business programs. So I'm going to talk about both here as a transition. I'm going to start on the residential side. So a couple of updates here on the residential eligible equipment list. We have a few new additions since last time we've had one of these quarterly updates, notably Fortress Power, Franklin Whole Home, and Pylon Tech actually as of today. So later today, you'll probably see an update on the website. So that's good news for contractors out there and customers looking for some more variety in equipment that they can sell and that they can offer their customers. On the coming soon list, we're excited to see Cadenza, who's a Connecticut-based company, and Stack Rack having their integration almost worked out with Energy Hub so that they can also be on the approved list pretty soon. Now, just for some program stats, so we're looking at about 213 single-family homes that are approved in the program, but there are actually 160 units of residential multifamily affordable housing that can be added to that too. So that brings us nearly to 300 total individual units approved for energy storage in this program. The rest of these stats don't include that 160 unit multifamily. So this is just about the single family homes. But in total, we're looking at just over 1.5 megawatts of approved capacity with about 4 megawatt hours of energy capacity. Of those systems, 102 are in grid edge territories, which is great to see. So there's more customers that are taking advantage of that 50% incentive adder, upfront incentive adder for grid edge. And that it's really that the program's benefits are speaking to those customers who lose power more frequently or for longer duration than average. We have about 14 underserved and 3 low-income customers in the program. Again, just on residential single family. And we're seeing the average system is hovering, has been staying around 8 kilowatts and 18 kilowatt hours of capacity. Average cost is still ranging in the in the low $30,000 range. And I'll talk a little bit more about incentives and kind of some things that are on the horizon for next year in a couple of slides. But next slide, we'll go over the buildings and C&I side of things. So right now, we're still at the same eligible equipment. I think probably since the last update, the biggest addition here has been the ELM field site batteries. We've seen a few contractors excited about using those products, and there's a number of different configurations ranging quite a bit in size for that equipment. You'll also see Cadenza, again, that's a local Connecticut company on there. So we've seen most of the projects so far that have been approved, of those 35 buildings that have been approved so far. Most of them are using the Tesla Megapack, but that often comes with some type of a custom software in there for the aggregation that comes from the battery operator. So of those 35 buildings approved, that totals about 74.3 megawatts. So we have about 42 megawatts of the 50 megawatts in the first tranche approved. The last project in line for the first tranche was actually too large, so we had to spill over into the second tranche. So we are about 33 megawatts approved into tranche 2, which is a 33 megawatt tranche. I'm sorry, a 100 megawatt tranche, excuse me. So about a third of the way through tranche 2 for C&I. We have one project that is up and running and has participated in a few events over the summer. That's 150 watt or 150 kilowatt system up in Ellington. 5 customers so far have been categorized as grid edge, 22 critical facilities, which is great to see, and 7 small businesses. The average system size that we're seeing in the program is about 2 megawatts and 5 to 6 megawatt hours in size. So that's really kind of, it is in the larger side of things. It's actually up on the maximum for the system size, but they all have about a 3-hour duration, which is about what we want, especially for those active dispatch events. So it looks like they're all about appropriately sized for their between the power and energy capacity. Next slide, please. And so finally, just a couple of updates. So we are currently in our 2023 annual review with PURA. Now that's been going on since August 1st. We've gone through a number of technical meetings and public comments, interrogatories, lots of work with a lot of folks at the Green Bank and the utilities on this. And I just wanted to give a thank you not only to the Green Bankers and utilities, but also to the contractors and developers out there, OEMs out there that that jumped in and took part in the regulatory process, because we really value your feedback, because it's really, the program's all about the contractors and the OEMs. So we love to get that feedback. So a draft decision is expected from PURA at the end of November. Or I'm sorry, the draft decision is actually on November 1st, and the final decision is the 22nd. There's a typo there. And just some of the proposed changes and kind of highlights to look for next year. So Connected Solutions, the Eversource residential battery program, is going to be ending enrollment in December and totally stopping all new enrollment by January. And in the proposed changes that we have in this annual review, which was a pretty big one, we're looking to increase the underserved and low income incentive rates. So that is on the table, and that's up to PURA to decide. We're looking to make some little changes, some technical changes that will make for easier integration for battery and inverter providers to join the program. So less friction, a little easier telemetry requirements, which we hope will bring in more OEMs and more contractors ultimately, and of course more customers. Eliminate or modify the winter dispatch. As you may know, we have 4 months of potential active events in the winter, but we really don't call too many. So that is on the table to make that optional. And finally, front of the meter storage. That's something that a lot of folks have been asking about. It is part of Connecticut's goal, but it's not explicitly part of this program. So we're not sure what will come of it, if it will be its own tariff, if it will be its own separate program, or if it'll be integrated into energy storage solutions. But time will tell in November. So Any other questions, always feel free to reach out. And back to you, Rudy.
Great, thank you, Ed. Turn on my camera because I'm going to handle this section for us today. So, Smarty Loan. We can't have a webinar without talking about the Smarty Loan because it is really our primary homeowner-facing product. It's now celebrating its 10th year this year, so 10 years of Smarty Loan success. The stats on this slide are actually just the past fiscal year, which ended on June 30th, but you can see over 1,200 projects closed last year with over $23 million of financing put into homeowners' homes, with an average loan amount of just shy of $19,000. We're seeing those loan amounts increasing. We're seeing more comprehensive projects being done in homes. 86% of those projects done last year were HVAC, heating, ventilation, and cooling projects, with a lot of those being heat pump installs. So we're seeing a lot of interest in heat pumps and related technologies. And you know, this program, we say this every time we talk about Smarty Loan, it would not exist if it wasn't for our strong contractor network. We currently have over 400 contractors that have registered or participated in the program over the years, and 8 really key lending partners, community banks, credit unions, and a CDFI that are really the ones putting the money out for all these projects and doing a lot of the back end work to get this program out into the public. So we appreciate all the contractors and lenders who are involved with that, and all the homeowners that have chosen to use the Smarty Loan to make their homes more energy efficient. A couple quick updates on the program itself. So I just mentioned it's now 10 years old. Over the summer, the first rate increase in the 10-year history of the program occurred. As you know, rate environment is very different than it was 10 years ago, and so rates needed to increase. But if you go on our website and check out those rates, you'll see that they're still incredibly competitive. You know, we haven't heard any contractors or homeowners saying, you know, the rates are too high. So they moved up in line with what the market need was for, to make sure that our lending partners were still able to offer this product. Sort of more exciting news about the product, though, is that the maximum loan has increased to $50,000. It was previously $40,000, and even higher on an exception basis that the lenders can determine on a loan-by-loan basis. And terms that were going up to 10 and 12 years before are now up to 15 and 20-year available terms. So again, more flexibility, more options for homeowners to spread the cost of these projects out, which allows homeowners to do more comprehensive things like solar and storage or heat pumps throughout their home. And as always, there's no prepayment penalties or down payments required for the Smarty Loan. And something new in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll start seeing some resiliency measures being eligible for financing through Smarty, things that will tie to the environmental infrastructure piece that Brian mentioned earlier in the presentation. One final home-related slide to make an announcement. If folks haven't heard about the upcoming Connecticut Energy Expo, it's happening very soon on October 19th through 21st at the Connecticut Convention Center. It's presented by the Connecticut Power and Energy Society and Operation Fuel. The Green Bank is also a sponsor, and we'll have a booth there that day, so for that weekend. So please feel free to stop by and ask us any questions there and visit. But it should be an exciting event. It's free and open to the public. You can learn more at goenergyexpo.com. And you can see on the screen there's a number of companies and vendors, and there'll be a transportation showcase. So lots happening that weekend. So please, if you're around in the Hartford area and you want to stop by, please come by. So quickly on investment solutions, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, David Beach.
Hi there, thanks, Rudy. Yeah, excited to tell you a little bit about some of the investment solutions we have currently at the Green Bank. So currently in the market, we have our Green Liberty Notes. Our Green Liberty Notes grew out of the Green Bank's desire to make investing in the green transition, especially in Connecticut, accessible to all of Connecticut residents. We had issued bonds previously and worked hard to reduce the cost of those bonds. Usually bonds in the open market are $10,000. We worked hard to bring that down to $1,000, but we knew that the barrier was still too high. So we created our Green Liberty Note program, which allows everyday investors to just spend $100 to invest in Connecticut's green economy. And you don't need a broker, you just need to have internet connection. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes is all. We've had a lot of great success so far. More than $1.5 million has been raised over getting close to 2 years now. We recently upped the amount we're raising every quarter. So from what was previously $250,000 raised, we're now raising $350,000 every quarter. So we've had great success, and we want to open up to make sure everyone has an opportunity to invest. And we've really kind of hit some of our goals. So more than 60% of the original investments have been $1,000 or less. That really shows us that there is interest from everyday folks out there who want to invest in Connecticut's green economy. So if you haven't yet, definitely go and grab a Green Liberty Note. I'll tell you a little bit more about them on the next slide. Thank you, Rudy. Yeah, so they kind of function like a green version of a CD. You earn an interest rate and you are paid back your principal and interest after 1 year. We very competitively price the Green Liberty Notes. I can't tell you now. Some SEC regulations keep me from telling you about that. So you have to go to greenlibertynotes.com to find out the exact rate. But they are very competitively priced compared to your regular bank CDs. And what we do with the funds that we raise is we support the Small Business Energy Advantage Program. The Small Business Energy Advantage Program is a unique program in Connecticut that offers small business owners and municipalities and actually state agencies to pursue energy efficiency projects via an interest-free loan that they can actually repay on their utility bills. So these loans really reduce the barrier to entry for energy efficiency projects, and the investment, your investment that we raise is used to support that program and support these loans that are reducing the energy burden for small businesses in Connecticut and helping us meet our climate goals. And we've really taken every kind of step necessary to really make sure that you have confidence that you will get paid back. These aren't FDIC insured, but we have kind of bent over backwards essentially to make sure that our investors can have confidence that after 1 year, you're going to get your interest, you're going to get your principal repaid, and you're going to be helping Connecticut's clean economy. So with that, I will end my section, but I'll be available if there are questions.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you for that. Really, really exciting to see our 8th issuance of the Green Liberty Notes. So let's just go to some closing thoughts here. Folks, if you have questions, get ready. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Rudy. We know that there are a lot of data wonks out there. We have, as part of our website, if you just go to see the website there down at the bottom, we've got our Maya tool named after Maya Angelou, the poet, seminal equity poet, environmental justice poem that we've ever heard, On the Pulse of Morning, that she delivered in 1992. But anyways, behind that, if you go to this webpage, you will actually be able to pull up all the impact data that's happening in communities, census tracts, counties, state, you name it, it's all there for you. So if you're a local energy advocate in your community, take a look at it. This is constantly updated. As I was mentioning earlier, we've got a really strong data team, so we're constantly feeding information into this website. It's always fresh. So check out the tool. Next slide. For those of you who missed it, we ran a multi-part webinar series over the summer that featured the residential solar investment program. Many of you know we completed that program. Working with the industry here in Connecticut, helped to deploy 380 megawatts of behind the meter residential solar per a public policy. That program was the most effective in the entire Northeast region, including New Jersey and New York, in terms of watts per capita deployed in residential, the most efficient in terms of the least amount of public subsidy into the program, and the most equitable in terms of reaching the highest proportion of program participants at the less than 80% area median income census tract level. So solar for all, very, very important to not only Connecticut, but now the entire country. We talked a lot about our financing programs that help provide families with the capital they needed to finance solar, loan programs in that middle webinar there, and then lease and PPA programs in the final webinar. You can literally go listen to the webinars, but we also did really fun story maps, bringing in a lot of the data that we've been collecting to help the reader go a little bit deeper in terms of energy burden, electric rates, PPA comparisons to electric rates. So we had a lot of fun with it. If you missed it, check it out. You also want to check out the fourth webinar. There's a fourth webinar that Managing Director Josh Ryer from Pura and our Managing Director Sergio Carrillo did on energy storage and the RRES program that Mackie was talking about earlier, the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program. A lot of good hints and things that are happening there in that market from that fourth webinar. So check it out. Next slide. For those of you who are interested in our federal engagement, we've been really, really actively involved in providing public comments into the IIJA and IRA. You can get that, all those comments that we've submitted over time into the various agencies by going to that part of our website. Next slide. As Mackie was alluding to, we are super, super excited by the adders in the Inflation Reduction Act. These are two really quick images of the energy communities and low income bonus adders. The energy communities adder is a 10% adder. You can qualify based on three things. Either you can be located in that MSA that you see there in purple in Southwest Connecticut. You could be located next to a retired coal-fired power plant, which you see there in Bridgeport and New London. Or thirdly, it's not shown here, but any former EPA designated brownfields can also access the energy communities 10% adder on top of the 30% investment tax credit. So think about that, an additional 10% on top of the existing ITC. And then in the bottom right-hand corner there is essentially all the climate and economic justice screening tool. This is a federal screening tool for burden census tracts. These are census tracts that have been designated by the Council for Environmental Quality through an environmental justice engagement process through the White House. If you are a property located in those areas, then you are eligible for at least the 10% investment tax credit through a third-party organization. These have to be through a commercial developer, not an individual resident can access these. There's also up to 20% for affordable housing projects, as Mackie was speaking about. If you have your property has participated in various federal government programs, then it's likely that you can receive the up to 20% adder. So lots of opportunities here to build on the foundation that we have here in Connecticut. Let's go to the next slide, which is the last slide. And this is just to give like a congratulations. Well, maybe that's too soon, but a number of you out there have been working super, super hard on the $27 billion greenhouse gas reduction fund that was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Whether you were working on your Solar for All application, whether you're working on your National Clean Investment Fund application or your Clean Communities Investment Accelerator application, those applications are due tomorrow. Many of us have felt that this has been the summer of GGRF. We've all been working super hard to make sure that we put together competitive proposals. that not only mobilize more investment in projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but I would argue more importantly, mobilize more private investment in low income and disadvantaged communities. You can't have environmentalism without humanitarianism. Just kind of bringing this back to our vision at the Connecticut Green Bank of a planet protected by the love of humanity. We really need to support our most vulnerable, and by enabling more investment for them to realize the benefits of these technologies, we can realize the true green economy that we're all after. So knock on wood, tomorrow, congratulations to all of you who were involved in all that, filing the applications, Coalition for Green Capital, congratulations getting all those pieces out there. I think that is it, Rudy. We'll turn it back to you for Q&A.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so if folks have questions, please put them in now. I know we've gotten a couple already, so hold on one second here. This is a good question to start with because I know the answer. So who are the lenders that fund the Smarty loan program? So there are 8 lenders currently in the program. I mentioned a CDFI, that's Community Development Financial Institution, that's Capital for Change, or C for C. We have a couple of credit unions, Core Plus Credit Union, Mutual Security Credit Union, and then a few local banks, Eastern Connecticut, Ion Bank, Thomaston Savings Bank, and Union Savings Bank. So those are your 8 Smart E lenders. There was a question here about, and I think Mackie would be the right one to answer this, but he's not on, so I think we can just give you an answer and suggest that you reach out to us. But are there any programs to help with solar/battery at my church? And I think that the best answer is reach out to us, because there definitely are programs that can help you there, and we'd be happy to talk with you about your specific setup and specific needs and roof and all of that. But yes, there definitely are. Feel free to send us an email at the email address on the screen, and we'll connect you with the right folks here to discuss it. A question about, we may have to follow up with you after the fact on this one, but can we point folks to PURA's multifamily affordable housing list? I think we can probably share that after the fact. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but we know that there's a link there somewhere. Any other questions folks have? Okay, here we go. Here's a question, Brian. What role does the Green Bank envision regarding direct pay and nonprofits? And helping get projects like churches and others off the ground through bridge lending?
So great question. So this is a question that refers to the new tax credit treatment underneath the Inflation Reduction Act that allows for nonprofits, government agencies to receive a direct payment of the investment tax credit, as opposed to the ITC going to those who have a tax appetite, right? So the ITCs prior to the IRA would be directed to tax equity investors. So you could imagine, given our, let's say, social bend to ensuring that not only those houses of worship, but those municipally supported affordable housing units, to municipal buildings, to state buildings, nonprofit buildings, that all of the tools that we have can now be much more efficient by being able to access direct payment through the investment tax credit, as opposed to having to run it through are different structures that have a tax equity structure to it. So it's going to make the process easier. Those savings will be delivered to you as they always are. But for us, this is a tool that's just going to make our jobs easier to really ensure that more investment is happening in these underserved, non-taxable areas of the economy.
Great. Thank you for that, Brian. So give another minute for questions. All right, well, seeing no other questions, want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank all of my colleagues for presenting. And as always, if you have questions or need information from us, please visit our website, fill out a form there, send an email to the info at email address that you see on the screen, and we're happy to answer your questions. And we, again, appreciate you all joining today, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Rudy.